Ford Field isn't waiting for tomorrow to shake anymore. It's trembling tonight. Because Trey Smith, yes, Trey Smith, the Kansas City Chiefs enforcer, the monster in the trenches who carved running lanes for Patrick Mahomes and stood as an immovable wall in Super Bowls, is now being spoken of as a Detroit Lion. And if you think this is just another off-season whisper, think again. This one feels different. This one feels alive. Lions Nation, the move we've been begging for, the one that screams respect in the trenches, is right here on our doorstep. Smash that like button, subscribe if you bleed Honolulu blue, and buckle up. Because this is the kind of story that turns believers into dreamers and dreamers into a movement. For years, Detroit has been building toward this. Brick by brick, trench by trench, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have been sculpting a team that doesn't just play football, it embodies Detroit itself. Grit, steel, bruises that tell a story. They gave us Penei Sewell, a cornerstone. They gave us Frank Ragnow, one of the smartest centers in the league. But ask any fan who's watched the last 2 seasons with their heart pounding and their fists clenched. Something was still missing. That sense of inevitability, that edge that says, no one gets through here. Trey Smith is that missing piece. Think about the resume. A 6th-round pick that became a Pro Bowl caliber guard, a player who overcame health concerns and silenced every doubter with pure force and relentlessness. Kansas City molded him into the muscle of their dynasty, the guy who made running backs believe in daylight and quarterbacks believe they'd stay upright. And now, drop him into Detroit's system, where physicality isn't a strategy. It's a religion. Can you even picture the chaos? Defenses lining up across from Sewell and Smith, realizing they've already lost the battle before the ball is snapped. Close your eyes and imagine this. 3rd and 2, November cold, Ford Field crowd screaming. Like thunder, Caleb Williams under center, Montgomery in the backfield. The ball is snapped, Smith explodes off the line, bulldozing the defender in front of him, creating a canyon-sized hole. Montgomery doesn't just run, he sprints into daylight. First down, chains move, drive alive. That's the Trey Smith effect. It's not glamorous, it's not a 50-yard bomb, but it's football at its purest. The kind of football Detroit has been craving for decades. But it's not just about brute strength. Trey Smith brings something this city has always respected. Attitude. He plays angry, but he plays smart. He finishes blocks with a message. He stares down defenders like he's daring them to try again. That edge fits Detroit like a glove. This is a team that thrives on being underestimated, that laughs when pundits call them overachievers, that feeds on doubt and turns it into domination. Trey Smith doesn't just join that culture, he amplifies it, and let's not ignore what this means for Caleb Williams. The rookie quarterback arrives in Detroit with the weight of an entire franchise on his shoulders. The comparisons to past failures, the pressure of being the guy, the endless debates about whether the Lions finally got it right. The one thing you cannot afford is to let him be hit, to let him be rattled, to let his confidence be chipped away. That's how careers die before they're born. Trey Smith is the antidote to that fear. He is the shield, the fortress, the silent promise that when Caleb drops back, he'll have the time to grow into the superstar everyone believes he can be. Now, let's talk history. The Lions have always been a team defined by trenches against for better or worse. The old-school fans still talk about the offensive lines of the Barry Sanders era, when blocks meant freedom and magic happened in space. More recent years, too often it's been misery. Quarterbacks crushed, running games stalled, playoff hopes suffocated before December. But this new era, the Campbell era, has promised a rebirth. And what better symbol of that rebirth than stealing a piece of the NFL's most successful franchise and making it your own? Trey Smith is that symbol. Picture the division battles. The Packers bring their pass rush into Ford Field. Smith stonewalls it. The Vikings try to bully with size inside. Smith pushes them back into their own linebackers. The Bears load the box to stop the run. Smith caves it in and dares them to try again. Rivalries are decided in the trenches, and Detroit finally has the chance to flip the script. And don't underestimate what this does emotionally for the fan base. Because let's be honest, Lions Nation has lived too long in heartbreak. Every off-season filled with hope, every September filled with belief, and too often, every December filled with regret. But not anymore. Not with moves like this. Trey Smith coming to Detroit is more than a signing. It's a statement. It's the front office screaming, "We believe, we're all in." It's the kind of action that turns cynics into believers, and believers into evangelists. Of course, here's where reality taps on the shoulder. Trey Smith isn't a free agent sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. He's a Kansas City Chief, locked up, valuable, beloved, and prying him away. Won't be easy. It would take bold moves, aggressive trades, maybe draft capital, maybe veterans sacrificed. It would take risk. But since when has Detroit been afraid of risk? Since when has this city, built on the backs of workers who never stopped grinding, turned away from a fight? If anything, that makes the idea even more perfect. Because bringing Trey Smith here wouldn't just be a transaction, it would be a war won. So where does this leave us? Somewhere between dream and destiny. The logic is there. The need is glaring. The fit is undeniable. Trey Smith is exactly the kind of lineman that changes not just plays, not just games, but seasons. He's the kind of player you look back on years later and say, that's when everything shifted. But here's the truth. Bears Nation. As electric as this feels, as convincing as it sounds, Trey Smith in navy and orange is not reality. Not yet. This is speculation, a dream scenario that fans breathe into existence because it makes too much sense. In Kansas City, he is locked up on a massive contract, a franchise cornerstone. In Detroit, he is the missing piece that solves everything we have been screaming about for years. And maybe that's exactly why this rumor, this dream, carries so much power. Because it feels right. It feels logical. It feels like destiny waiting to be claimed. We've seen this team ignore the trenches before. We've watched quarterbacks crushed, drives destroyed, seasons wasted. With Caleb Williams, that cannot happen again. Protecting him is not optional. It is mandatory. And that is why Trey Smith resonates. Because he symbolizes a front office, willing to do whatever it takes to protect the future. So I ask you, Lions Nation, is Trey Smith the anchor that transforms this offensive line from patchwork into fortress? Is he the signing that tells Caleb Williams, "We've got your back, now go and become the superstar you were meant to be"? Is he the message to the rest of the NFL that Detroit isn't just coming? Detroit is here? Or is this just another off-season mirage, another story we cling to because it feels so right, because it feels like destiny, because it gives us the belief that we deserve? Your voice matters here. Your roar isn't just sound, it's power. It's the pressure that forces front offices to move. It's the heartbeat of this team. And trust me, in Detroit, that roar has never been louder, never been hungrier, never been more desperate to echo across the league. Maybe it is just speculation, maybe it is just a dream, but tell me this, doesn't it already feel real? Doesn't it feel inevitable? Because in Detroit, inevitability has always started with belief. And Lions Nation, belief is exactly what turns rumors into banners.